Почему? Ну ладно. Блин, это не туда. Я кину сейчас этому ссылку.
Подожди. А, окей, да, заиграл. Кейфрейм потерялся. Ну это не стрим, это хреновое качество сигнала. Такое нельзя показать.
Ну да, нельзя.
Так. Шлюпный стоп. Разрешение там 320 на 240 и 640 на 480.
Может, посвятся?
Я не думаю. Я не думаю, что просвется.
Это типа вообще заморочки с чем?
Но это не наши заморочки.
Я понимаю,
это не русские заморочки. Это заморочки с разрешением. Потому что тут... Так, окей. Подожди секунду, ничего не делай. Вообще я сейчас... Ой, блин.
Ну вот играет мой вчерашний архив живого стрима.
Так, какой аккаунт ты используешь на этом?
Каком?
На РФА.
Майк.
Майк, окей. Так, Так, нажми-ка там на стоп.
Stays with the plane forever, and you can't see under a paint job unless you do ultrasonic or other testing, and a lot of nations don't require that ever.
Paul, I mean, the fact the U.S. Embassy is now warning employees not to travel anywhere in the Sinai pending the outcome in the investigation, I mean, it could just be prudence on their part.
I don't think we should read too much into that. I mean, the northern part of Sinai, especially, has been a big conflict zone.
Right, they've been telling people to stay. I mean, people should stay out of that region.
Yeah, I mean, presumably that also
times.
means Sharm el-Sheikh, that people shouldn't go there. That's on the southern tip of
Which
Sinai.
is a huge dive spot. It's a big tourist
lot of
area.
Israeli tourists, European tourists, all sorts of people traveling there all the time. So interesting advice coming out of the State Department not to go there right now in terms of employees of the State Department, Anderson.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. Actually, you know, it was at 31,100 feet, went up to 33.5. You know, in 2 seconds, there's a lot of erratic data on Flight Radar 24.
Okay.
They do claim it's real time. How accurate this information is curious to me, but what is really curious to me is it showed a trend of a descending airplane, and as we've discussed, this thing has been down to, it went down to a stalling speed. It went down to 62 knots. That's not sustainable in any kind of airliner type airplane, but the point being is that how did Flight Radar 24 track this for 24 minutes if airplane broke apart? There's no more electricity to that transmitter.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So that's one of the considerations that...
Well, a lot of questions still being answered. Les Aubin, appreciate it. Paul Cruikshanks, thanks very much. Mayor Schiavo as well. Appreciate you being...
At T. Rowe Price, our disciplined investment approach remains. We ask questions here, look for risks there, and search for opportunity everywhere. Global markets may be uncertain, but you can feel confident in our investment experience around the world. Call a T. Rowe Price investment specialist or your advisor and see how we can help you find global opportunity. T. Rowe Price. Invest with confidence.
2/3 of our planet is covered in it. So why do nearly 800 million people suffer from lack of clean water around the world? That's completely unacceptable to me, and that is why I'm working on a way to solve this global problem. Like here, my name is Manny, Senior VP of Technology. We are Coke.
40% of the streetlights in Detroit at one point did not work. You had some blocks, and you had major thoroughfares and corridors that was just totally pitch black. Those things had to change. We wanted to restore our lighting system in the city. You can have the greatest dreams in the world, but unless you can finance those dreams, it doesn't happen. At the time that the bankruptcy filing was done, the Public Lighting Authority had a hard time finding a bank. City did not run away from the table like some other bankers did. City had the strength to help us go to the credit markets and raise the money. It's a brighter day in Detroit. People can see better when they're out doing their tasks. Young people are moving back in town. Kids are feeling safer while they walk to school, and folks are making investments, and the community is moving forward. 40% of the lights were out, but they're not out for long. They're coming back.
Be ready to winter with Infiniti. Now through January 4th, lease the Infiniti QX60 for $399 a month.
He finally pressed his lips against mine. Our forbidden love, caressed by a gentle rain.
Ну, потому что говорит...
legalizing recreational marijuana. Joining us with the latest on that and more is Joe Johns. So what do we know, Joe?
Well, Anderson, CNN now projects that Ohio voters will say no to legalizing recreational marijuana, turning down the state initiative that had been put before them by a group of investors. There are the numbers so far: 65% no, 35% yes. That's with 39% reporting apparently Ohio is going to turn down legal weed. Famer Oscar Robertson, descendants of U.S. President William Howard Taft, and the musician Nick Lachey. Now, anything having to do with marijuana is controversial, but what's made this even more contentious is the part of the amendment that said growing and selling pot would be controlled by 10 site-specific farms. Those farms were supposed to have exclusive control of the industry in the state. Critics said that was the same thing as a monopoly, and it set off a whole different wave of opposition having less to do with pot and more to do with anti-monopoly concerns, Anderson.
Well, one of the arguments from the legalization side always was that it could be a big money maker.
Another 5% on stores that sell the drug to be used for public safety, health, for first responders, infrastructure, including roads and bridge repair. So that amendment was going to set up the state for a big payday that could have lasted a long time, but it looks like it's not going to happen.
We also have more election results. I mean, obviously, we're a year away from the big presidential election, but there are election results from Kentucky. What happened?
I think you can call this a shock. There was the Tea Party favorite, Matt Bevin. He won, and insider Democrat Jack Conway lost. Now, a couple things that make this race in Kentucky interesting on a national level. The first is location. Kentucky tends to send Republicans to Washington, including, of course, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. And the backdrop of the race was very much about national issues, whether the state should continue its course pushing ahead with Obamacare for hundreds of thousands of residents, which is what the Democrat Conway was calling for, or if the state would back away from Obamacare, which is what the Republican Matt Bevin wanted to do. The other issue that got a lot of play in the state was same-sex marriage, especially because Kentucky is the home state of County Clerk Kim Davis, who set off a whole firestorm by refusing to give marriage licenses to same-sex couples. The Republican Matt Bevin gave